and from my wife and from me, when we have the ability to admit that we made a mistake, swallow your pride. It's okay. You'll have more respect when you say, we got to give this a go. We jumped the gun. We got to give it a go. And that's what I just it seems so clear to me that's the direction to go. And I don't know if it feels like that to you.
Well, it does feel like their world is collapsing in on them. We want to welcome everybody who's watching live on StreamYard, which is our platform that streams the show live to Facebook, various platforms on Facebook and Twitter, and our Spielman Hooley YouTube channel. It is a August 31st edition of the We Tackle Life podcast. I think it feels to me like things are collapsing on the Big Ten. They thought they could make a decision and that no one would challenge it, I guess.
They misread the room, Bruce.
They did misread the room. They were perhaps, I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. They looked at Michigan State, at Rutgers, at Ohio State, all which had pauses in their workouts. And I guess they felt like they couldn't play. And so they made a decision not to play. And now the number you just referred to from the CDC, did the CDC just slip this out and nobody really knew when it came out or whatever? But at any rate,
well, nobody's publicizing it.
And what we have is that the CDC
has headlines of the world.
Yeah, CDC has classified all the COVID deaths in the U.S. by categories where you have COVID with, let's say, pneumonia, COVID with asthma, COVID with any other risk or any other health condition, and then COVID alone. The COVID alone number is the one that people are struck by. COVID alone, deaths are under 10,000, which would be 6% of all reported COVID deaths. The number is somewhere, it's under 200,000, but it's 180, 190,000, whatever. But only 6% of those deaths are COVID only. So we've essentially shut down our economy, canceled the NCAA tournament, canceled high school sports, done irreparable, incalculable damage on suicides, domestic violence, and everything for a much, 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 much lower death rate from COVID than has been portrayed. Doesn't mean that the 10,000 approximate deaths are insignificant. Of course, it just means that we struggle with health threats of greater degree often and don't make these kinds of moves. Now, I understand why the moves were made initially, the fear of the unknown, all that stuff.
I was all in it.
The water's under that bridge and you can't go back, and it doesn't do any good to, bemoan it, but you can react going forward based upon enlightened numbers. And so the Big Ten, with other leagues playing, with a college football game having happened on, was it Saturday night, Friday night?
No, it's Saturday around,
Austin
Saturday,
P in Central Arkansas.
Yeah.
I just think the Big Ten now is in a position where they are afraid they're going to really look foolish if they say, okay, let's start in late September. The date that was reported over the weekend, that they're now thinking about starting Thanksgiving weekend, everyone said, well, if you can play Thanksgiving, why can't you play now?
It's just...
And the other thing is, like, they're thinking of starting basketball season Thanksgiving weekend. It really looks bad if you can play basketball, but you can't play football till January. Like, well, what's that excuse? Nobody's asked that question yet, but what's that excuse?
The Thanksgiving thing is just as ridiculous as starting in January, in my opinion, because you're eliminating yourself for any type of...
But are you? Like, here, I think you are too, because, okay, so everybody else is wrapping the season in late November. Again, maybe another week of the regular season and the championship game. Let's just take the case of Ohio State. Ohio State debuts Thanksgiving weekend. Let's say they start with Michigan. They absolutely throttle Michigan. They play another game the following week and another. They're 3-0. They're dominant. We all expect them to be dominant. The College Football Playoff Committee, can they put Ohio State in the playoff at 3-0, knowing that Ohio State has games the rest of December? What if Ohio State loses once or twice?
Yeah,
What if Justin Fields gets hurt and they play a freshman quarterback and they lose to Penn State? And you just can't put them in, I don't think.
Well, they're only playing 8 games. They're only playing 8 games.
Yeah, 8 games in. Well, the number I saw was 10 games if you play Thanksgiving, 8 games if you play in January.
Just play. It's okay. I mean, I think it shows strength to readjust.
Say we got. They could sell it on new information. They could sell it on new information. We got a saliva test.
Yeah.
We got this number from the CDC. We know more than we know. We're going to change our minds.
Yeah, and they can't use the argument where students coming back are getting COVID. I think 91 students at Ohio State tested positive now. And we're going to go all online. Well, if you go all online, that only enhances the safety of the players.
Sure does.
So they have no argument. Now it's almost like either they're tone deaf or being just stubborn or afraid to admit when they're strong. I mean,
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That's their justification.
Well, here's the thing I shared with my family this morning, and I don't want to get into the face segment yet, but this is relevant right now. So because of these surpassingly great revelations, therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, Big Ten, you were given a thorn in your flesh.
Yeah,
it's a messenger from Satan to torment you. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord, please give us back the season. Please take this away from me. Please take this away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness and insults and hardships and persecutions and difficulties. For when I am weak, I am strong. So just, admit. And for me, that can say so many different things. That's such a powerful verse for me. In fact, that's one of my life verses, or one of my top Chris verses that I use for myself. Part of being strong is to be weak, and part of being weak is to admit when you're wrong. Then you're actually being strong. That probably makes sense to me, maybe a little bit to you.
It makes very good sense to me, because I've done it too.
And you don't have to say even admit you're wrong. I love what you said. Go under the guise that, hey, there's new information out there. We're excited about this. We know now that we can probably start, and we can have a 3-week ramp up, or we can have a month ramp up here. Start the first week of October. We can do this.
Yeah,
but time's running out on making that decision.
It is.
I think you'd agree with that.
You got to make the decision. Like, let's say they came out tomorrow and said, we're going to play at the end of September. Okay, so then Paul Feinbaum has said the Big Ten's a laughing stock already. Okay, so how do you fix this if you're the Big Ten? Can Kevin Warren gain credibility or preserve enough credibility if he comes out and says, in hindsight, we made a mistake, we overreacted, we're now enlightened because of all the new information, and we're going forward? Or what if he says, I screwed up, I panicked,
He's not gonna say that.
I made a mistake? Well, you say you got to admit when you made a mistake.
But
that's
me. He's not going to.
He's not going to do that. Okay.
You think he will?
Well, I just wonder. I'm just asking him in the point of.
I like what you said.
Can he gain credibility? Can he say, look, in hindsight, I made a mistake. I should have given it more time. I should have given it some time to breathe.
Leadership is. You've gone through leadership.
Yeah.
By the way, I ran into your friend Matt.
I know you did. I want to hear about that.
Leadership to me. There's so many definitions of it. 2-3 weeks ago, I put on Twitter my definitions of leadership. But another sign of leadership is admitting that you're wrong and the ability to improvise and change plans. For example, we always talk about great coaches. One of the things people use is that they make halftime adjustments. I've never been a believer in halftime adjustments. What I'm a big believer in is series adjustments. After each series, you make an adjustment. You sit down, you say, is this working or it's not working? If it's not working, you adjust to it and do something else.
Now, why wait till halftime?
It is not working, Big Ten. It's not. I don't understand why you cannot read the room on this.
Well, here's another thing the Big Ten might be thinking. We had the parental protest at Ohio Stadium on Saturday. 30 Ohio State football parents spoke. I was under the impression that all the other parents of all the other Big Ten schools were coming to this.
No,
And
I thought they were doing their own thing.
And I expected a big rally. I expected like 20,000 people, or there were 200 people. Now, does the Big Ten look at that and go, well, if they only have 200 people in Ohio, where the Buckeyes are unmatched in their dominance of our league, won it outright 3 consecutive times, not as many people are as upset about this as we think, so we can ride this out. Is that something? I was struck by that number.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't anticipate a lot of people being there.
Boy, I did. I thought the place would be flooded with people.
No, I don't. That's not. I think people get it. I think the more important thing was that the message that was being sent by the players that gets out. That, I mean, it's not going to be something that I'm going to look to do on I had stuff to do on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, but if you come out to fight for Buckeye football, that was how it was portrayed, was come out and show your support for Buckeye football. I just thought, wow, we're going to get a ton of people. I thought the number was low.
I just think the important thing is that the voices are being heard, and that if you keep putting data out there, that somehow I feel like some of the decision makers are thinking that these people aren't smart enough. And I'm not just saying that from the Big Ten. I'm saying that from a national level. There's a lot of people out there that think that the public or our society is ignorant and stupid.
Yeah, we know more than you know, or we know what's best for you.
Yeah. And that's even more infuriating.
Yeah, it is. It would be maybe not infuriating, but certainly a big whiff if you did not start your day with Hemisphere Coffee Roasters coffee. It is.
I'm out, by the way.
Oh, already?
Yes.
2 boxes gone?
When you have
you were right about your wife really down in the coffee. Well, all right, we'll fix that. You all can fix your own lack of Hemisphere coffee by going to hemispherecoffeeroasters.com using the promo code WeTackle. You see it scrolling along the bottom of the live stream right now. Save 15% off. And don't forget, Hemisphere can help you provide the perfect corporate gift. They have a lot of great gift packs that include chocolate, include tea. They include coffee samplers. So go to hemispherecoffeeroasters.com. Check out all their offerings. We'll have to replenish Mr. Spielman's supply. Although today I am shuttle bus dad today.
What's going on?
Well, let's see. I got to go through my schedule for the day. I have homeschool pickup from the consortium at 1. I have 6th grade pickup at 2:20. I have drop off at school for soccer road trip at 5:45.
Oh, where's the game tonight?
Game is in St. Paris tonight.
I have no idea where
St. Paris is on Route 36, just past Urbana. 7:15 start if you want to be there. Oh, and I have to attend the Ohio State baseball golf outing today at York Country Club at 4 p.m.
Yeah, a lot of
so I got 1 o'clock, 2:20, 4, and 5 something. I don't know how I'm gonna get.
Life's busy for a stay-home dad.
It's busy for a stay-home dad. So.
Very good.
Yeah, exactly. So, looking forward to all of that. The big court ruling today. We're going to find out if the Nebraska players' lawsuit gets expedited discovery, which means Big Ten has to turn over records of its deliberations to cancel the season. The root of the Nebraska players' lawsuit is that the Big Ten has bylaws, how they cancel things. Their bylaws stipulate they need a 60% vote of the presidents and chancellors. If there was a vote, the Big Ten's in the clear. But if they violated their bylaws, it's considered breach of contract, and then the Big Ten's cancellation of the season would be ruled by the courts null and void. Now, this is a Lincoln, Nebraska court, so it might get a favorable ruling from the Lincoln, Nebraska court, and then we'll see if the Big Ten appeals it. Mm-hmm. So probably appeal it to a bigger court.
Of course they're going to appeal it.
Yeah.
They're not going to it'd be the upset of the century if they ever admitted that they were wrong. They could fix this. I mean, they could fix this based off new information.
What if they say, hey, we discussed the options that they could do. They could say they were wrong, say they have new information. What if they said, well, we lost in court, so we got to play?
Do that.
Maybe they want to play. Maybe they now realize they should play, and they can blame it on the court. Well, we don't. But that's a dangerous place to go. Like, we don't think it's safe, but.
Yeah, but I mean, I think everybody's looking for a scapegoat because we knew right now that throughout this whole process, there were a lot of people within the Big Ten that were afraid to actually,
and that's the scary part.
Lead.
That's the scary part. Bruce Feldman, a Fox Sports guy, guy I know, really good college football reporter. over the weekend wrote that someone in the Big Ten, a source that he trusts, or he wouldn't be quoting them, says that the decision to play or not play will be made, and this is where you got to be afraid if you're an Ohio State fan and want football. The decision will be made in the best interest of all 14 institutions. So Ohio State's not going to throw its weight around and say, hey, we want to play. Or Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and Nebraska can't dominate the other 10, because I don't think Maryland wants to play. I don't think Michigan State wants to play. I don't think Rutgers wants to play.
I disagree. I think Michigan State wants to play. I think Michigan wants to play. I think the governor of Michigan is not interested.
She doesn't want to play.
In playing. That's just
correct.
That's accurate information.
Yeah, no, she's on record.
And what continually looks bad for these schools and the conference as a whole is that Luke Fickell and the Cincinnati Bearcats are going to play. Matt Campbell and the Iowa State Cyclones are going to play. High schools in Iowa are going to play. High schools in the state of Ohio are playing.
They are.
And they're playing with great joy.
They are.
By the way, just watching this game, even the freshman game, I mean, you know, just the joy that these kids are having, man. It's just awesome to see.
It was a little weird Friday night. I attended a high school football game in Miamisburg.
In a professional capacity.
In a professional capacity for PressProsMagazine.com. You can read the story. And then I wrote a column about covering my first regular season high school football game
Since
in 35 years, Spiels. And this one was bare bones reporting. This one was sit in the stands, keep your own stats, no traffic jam to get in. I walked in, I told them who I was, and they said, okay. No credential check. I had a business card, didn't have to show it. But it was great. Man. It was like I could walk the sidelines, I could do whatever I wanted, and it was great. And afterward, you know, I got to talk.
You wore your mask?
I did. I wore my mask. Yeah.
Good job.
So yeah, it was just fun. It was just pure. It was high. I texted you a picture before the game, and you texted back one word. Roots. Now, I assume you meant that that's where my career started, covering high school football. But it made me think, and I actually wrote about your text today on PressProsMagazine.com, that the roots of everything in sports emanates from the high school level. And we think, and I thought as a young sports writer in Troy, Ohio, boy, I can't wait to cover the Rose Bowl. I can't wait to cover the Super Bowl. I can't wait to cover this. And you're in such a hurry to get to the next thing that you don't realize, hey, this is pretty good right here. You know, there's a lot of good about this. And going back Friday night, it was great to experience that again with the long career perspective. When you're a young sports writer, you don't see the things that are a bit frustrating about covering big events. And you don't appreciate the things that simplify your task covering events. People are glad to talk to you, glad to see you, all that kind of stuff. The coaches aren't suspicious, you know.
Throwing you the Heisman stiff arm.
So it's like really interesting and fun, and both have their things that make you fulfilled, and both have the things that you like battle. And I enjoyed it, and I'll do it again Friday night. And
where are you going this Friday?
I think I might be back with Troy Christian on Friday night.
Wow, you're like the beat writer for
I'm
Troy
the Troy Christian Eagles, baby. Yeah, they play a defending or a team that won the state 2 years ago.
Who's that?
Macomb.
Okay.
So I may be on another game in the MAC. I may be like, you know, Covington, Versailles. Nice. Who knows? I don't know.
You know the cool thing about it is what I noticed just is the celebration of a disappointment. Like if a kid gets an interception, the celebration of the interception, or caused a fumble, or if the kid scores a touchdown and the team is jumping up and down. It's like nobody, like they're the only ones in the world that matter, and that's the beautiful thing about it, man.
So here's where my like big event Bruce mentality took over. So Troy's got the ball down on the 2-yard line, and their quarterback rolls out and he goes to the ground. They like tackle him, and he fumbles, and the other team recovers. And instantly I'm thinking, well, that's going to be overturned on replay. That was the first thought I had. Yeah. I'm like, well, let's replay that because I can get kids down. And I was like, wait a minute, man.
That's awesome.
There's no replay in high school football. So, yeah, it was pretty fun. We will see today what happens in the courts with Nebraska's player lawsuit against the Big Ten. If you want the best attorney representation you can get when you're in court or when you're protecting your legal rights, you want Willis Spangler Starling, you want Stan, you want Kelly, you want the great attorneys from Willis Spangler Starling. And you can find out more about their firm and browse their website to read their informative blog about things that you may not know regarding your legal rights. They are at willisattorneys.com, willisattorneys.com, whether it's workers' compensation, personal injury, wills, estate planning, all important. Everything's important. You want your legal rights protected. You want an advocate who has the utmost integrity and character. You want Willis Spangler Starling. Willis Spangler Starling's on Truman Boulevard in Hilliard. Beautiful offices, great people. Their website, willisattorneys.com. I hate seeing this. Right. Jamar Chase, LSU wide receiver, is opting out. So you know what that tells me? Joe Burrow's successor is not very good. Jamar Chase went through practice.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase went through practice. He was like, this might not be good for me. I can leave the impression I had when I was catching a bunch of touchdowns from Joe Burrow, or I can get, 600 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns, and people are going to say, what's wrong with Jamar Chase? That was the first thought I had was, LSU's got quarterback issues.
I'm not surprised. I think this might be the wave of the future. Guy has a strong junior year. He's going to opt out his senior year.
Man, I hate it. I hate it.
I know.
It's quitting on your teammates. That's just me, old school Bruce. It's just you're walking out on your guys. You're prioritizing yourself over the team, which I think is the very definition of selfish. You're going to see guys who can't go in the draft. They're not old enough. They haven't been out of school 3 years. They're entering their 3rd year, and they're like, I'm not taking a chance.
Well, I mean, we saw this trend coming, correct?
We did. It started with the bowl games.
It started with the bowl games and started with and again, I understand it, and I'm not going to criticize a kid for making a decision what's best for the kid. And we saw, Nick Bosa got hurt early on, and then Nick shut it down for the season. And I completely understood that.
And some of it, too, was, remember, these guys like Jadeveon Clowney. Why would he play? He shouldn't even play. He had the great bowl game against Michigan as a sophomore. And there's all the, why should he play? People said that about Trevor Lawrence. You're going to get elite sophomores who people are going to say, well, there's no point in them playing. Their draft position is secure.
Well, I think if they're not 3 years removed, you can certainly hurt yourself because you give other guys a chance to elevate themselves.
Yeah.
If you have 3 years on tape.
If you only got 2 on tape, and they're great years. Lawrence, would Trevor Lawrence, had he been draft eligible, been the number 1 pick after his true freshman year?
No.
Ooh, dude, I think he might have been.
I disagree.
I would have to go back to that draft and find out who the number 1 overall pick was. It was not Joe Burrow, because who was the year before that? Anyway.
And you want a coffee update real quick?
I do want a coffee update. A coffee update from the Spielman home.
I just
how many K-Cups now that we've done inventory are left?
I need some Hunter's Blend. I just did I just got to investigate a photo from Sticky Fingers Carrie. She apparently is hiding all the Hemisphere coffee in her own special spot, which she texted me a picture. But there's no Hunter's Blend in there, which she confiscated and hid for herself. But apparently she likes this because I was looking all over the kitchen for this morning. Mm-hmm. There's the picture for you guys. I know you can't see it, but it's.
She keeping that in a drawer?
I don't know where it is. I don't know. I don't know where it is.
Under lock and key.
I think it's in the laundry room, a place where I don't enter very often. So that's why she knows I won't go looking there.
Very possible.
So anyway, I just want to give you an update. But thanks, Carrie, for doing that. Maybe you can spare one when I get home.
Be on your best behavior if you want that.
But look, I mean, COVID is giving everybody, COVID gave everybody the out, right? It gives everybody the out. We talked about this.
Skip your football season.
It also gave people the out in this regard. I think some benefits going to help some of the players. I was listening to Cliff Kingsbury talk this morning.
Arizona Cardinals head coach.
Very good coach, by the way. I think sometimes he gets a bad rap for being, he took that staged photo during a draft, sitting in his beautiful house in Phoenix, which I know you were a little. You had to admire the house a little bit.
Oh my goodness! I'm like, that's living the life.
Thou shalt not covet, Bruce.
Yes, I know. I'm like, that's at the Biltmore. That's where that is.
But I call it the Billmore because
Billmore.
I've stayed there. So, but
It's
anyway,
accurate. That's very accurate.
but I think listening to Cliff, I think he's a really good coach. He's smart and he's innovative and he calls a great game. But he was talking about Larry Fitzgerald and how the virtual stuff is a 17-year veteran, surefire Hall of Famer. I don't know if you've ever spoken with Larry Fitzgerald. I've done an interview with Larry, but
Just once.
he's a really interesting, very cool human being. Just I like him because he does his own thing and he thinks his own way and he's just very sure and he's the pro's pro. But Cliff was talking about how the COVID and the virtual stuff helped this 17-year veteran and just not to beat himself up. I mean, Larry doesn't need to go out there and learn how to run routes. I mean, Larry gets it, right?
Yeah.
So I just think this, but my point is that COVID gives guys an out, and I think it can help some of these older veteran NFL players. So I always tend to look, and you know this, and this is something that I never did as a younger man, but as a middle-aged guy right now, I always look at what can I benefit? How can I take this situation and how can we benefit from this and take advantage of it? And I think a lot of guys are doing that. And for the college players, it gives them the out, and I don't blame them, but some people might say, well, you're letting your team down by not playing.
That's my position.
That is your position, and I get that, and I understand that. But the COVID, I think, gives them a little bit of cover to make that decision.
Yeah, I couldn't face my teammates in doing that to them. You couldn't either.
No, I don't think I could. I mean, I would definitely play, because I enjoyed the game. Although my ultimate goal, and I would be lying if and you know this about me as much as you know me as well as anybody, my ultimate goal was to make the NFL.
Of course.
That was it. That was the time I could walk, talk, breathe. And knew that there was a thing where you can play football and get money for it. That's what I dedicated my life to do at a very young age. So, and that's why it's so frustrating for me that the Big Ten, isn't it amazing how irrelevant the Pac-12 is?
Yes. Nobody even talks about
your Arizona State
as I'm wearing
shirt.
my wife's alma mater's shirt. Yeah. Nobody talks about the Big Ten and the Pac-12. They just leave the Pac-12 out. It's just an afterthought. All right. Now, you mentioned that the COVID and virtual NFL training camps and stuff helped Larry Fitzgerald not get beat up. Joe Burrow, young man, wants to get beat up, or at least he wants to get hit. Joe Burrow said after Sunday night's Bengals scrimmage that he's going to lobby Zach Taylor to allow him to be live in the next Bengals scrimmage, which, of course, has zero chance of happening. But is it a viable concern of Joe Burrow's that the first time he will be hit, presumably, unless he has great protection, September the 13th against the Los Angeles Chargers?
No. I think he'll adjust.
Okay.
But here's the thing. If I were Zach Taylor, by the way, I really like a good dude. I hope he has success.
Bengals head coach?
Yeah. I would say, Joe, I'm going to tell you what I tell my kids when they were in high school and middle school and elementary school. You're not old enough to make that decision.
There you go.
That's it. You're not old. No, you're not getting hit. Now, Joe Judge, the head coach of the New York Giants, here's a little bit of information.
Okay.
Why it's a bigger show when I'm here.
Yes, because we get updates on Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones is live fire in their scrimmages. Yes. That's just a difference in.
That's a great idea until Daniel Jones gets hurt.
Wow.
Then Joe Judge's neck is severed.
It would be
the Giants head coach.
It's the most insane thing ever to let him be hit in practice.
Dumb. Super dumb.
It doesn't. I mean, every decision that a head coach makes in regards to that, it's cost benefit. What's the benefit? So he learns how to take a few hits. He's going to take enough hits during the year. He's a tough kid. I mean, Daniel Jones is a tough guy.
I'm sure he got hit a lot at Duke.
He got hit a lot last year.
Yeah.
By the way, and so I understand Joe wanting to. I'm the guy in charge here. We're going to be a tough physical football team. Look at this. We're even letting our quarterbacks get hit in scrimmages. Maybe he's changed his position.
Maybe he's not really letting him get hit. He's just saying that because the scrimmages are
Well,
close.
what I would want my guys to do, the problem is you want to simulate a strong pass rush. And I want guys in their face. I was listening to Bruce Gradkowski, former University of Toledo quarterback, also played in the league. I think he played with Tampa and the Steelers for a while.
And the Browns.
And the Browns, of course.
Everybody who's a journeyman quarterback has played for the Browns.
And he was talking about, you want to simulate everything you can as far as guys in your falling around your feet, guys in your face. The one thing that always concerned me, and that whenever set off an offensive line coach or a head coach or an offensive coordinator or a quarterback coach during practice, and I saw this with whether it was Scott Mitchell to Jim Kelly to Rodney Pete, whoever it was, if a defensive player during a practice team drill would come close to the quarterback, and the quarterback would slam his hand on a helmet.
Yep.
That's one of the biggest things.
Sure.
That's
why
scary.
Joe Burrow ended up at LSU.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Spielman, Saturday is a day that you never had to experience the angst of, that many NFL veterans do experience the real angst of. It is cut down day in the NFL. I dare say in your career, you were never a veteran who was afraid, I'm making too much money, they're going to cut me.
No.
Do you have any stories of any teammates, any friends, maybe any brothers who were concerned?
Well,
about
I mean,
cut down day?
I'll tell the story about Rick, who was in training camp with me, and was let's be honest, he was a very long shot to make it, but
Southern Illinois.
But he was a free agent. I was a second round pick, but he was a linebacker, and got a lot of run in preseason. I mean, I thought he did well. I didn't think he was good enough to be a linebacker, but he's a good special
teamer, sure.
Good special teams because he was tough and he was fast. I mean, Rick was a faster player. He didn't play faster than me, but he was faster, so he would run straight line. He was pretty good, and I think led the team in special teams tackles during the preseason. And he did a really good job. But maybe in his mind, I think he thought that there was a chance that I could make this team.
Sure.
And so we went over to the stadium together on cut day, and I went somewhere. I was 2 minutes late to the meeting because I had to talk to the trainer about something. I had an excuse. I walk in, he wasn't there, so they came and got him. I looked next to me, and he wasn't there, and I knew that he was released. And it's hard. It's hard for a lot of guys because for a lot of guys, the dream is dead. For a lot of guys, especially undrafted free agents this year, they're not even going to get an opportunity because they didn't get a look. I was listening to Sean Payton, who I have a lot of respect for. So people either love Sean Payton or he turns people off. I think he's very smart and bright. He's a thinker. And he's very confident in his ability, which actually I enjoy that. I don't like guys that aren't confident in what they say or what they believe in. And Sean is very confident, and he said, the lack to be able to get an evaluation on a kid, there's so many guys that we're going to miss and the mistakes that are being made. The only good thing that's coming from this is the 16-person practice squad that you're able to establish. That's going to help some guys that might have been cut, especially veterans, right? Because you can keep 7 veterans this year, Bruce, where in the past that wasn't the case. So you're going to have 7 veterans on your team. So it gives guys a chance, maybe if their career was over or they're on a down end, or they just, they've been hanging on for 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 years with just a team being the last guy. It gives them another opportunity. I just think for younger players, they're going to get released without even getting a shot.
Yeah, that's too bad. And there will be guys who, James Harrison was a guy who was cut a bunch and ended up NFL defensive MVP. And you wonder, well, how can a guy be cut and end up defensive MVP? Well, he didn't get the look that he needed. So there will be a guy who will be cut this year by a lot of teams and will not hook on. And eventually 3, 4, 5 years from now, we'll go, well, how did that guy not get taken? And it'll be a COVID mistake.
That'll be a good way to describe it. And they're already admitting that there's going to be, of course, COVID mistakes. Interesting. I was on we've kind of been in the midst of virtual seminars for Fox. We had Roger Goodell address the company. And I asked Rick about this, and what they're trying to do, and I thought this was great. So for those guys maybe that are or young free agents or teams that have been released, they're thinking about establishing a bubble for them, putting them in like say IMG Academy, okay,
Sure.
or some place like that where they live and train and do drills and stuff. And so if you have a breakout, 5 guys go down.
Yeah.
You take 5 guys off your practice squad, you elevate them to the regular season, and you sign these 5 guys and put them on your practice squad.
Sure, you don't have to quarantine them. They're good.
That's the thing. But because the normal processing for an NFL street guy is normally 1 day. I mean, on Sunday a player gets hurt. On Monday, they're in the building. They're signed by Monday evening. Their playbook's in hand. They study Tuesday. They're at practice Wednesday. Well, if you bring a guy off, it's a 4-day processing this person before you even let him in the building.
Yeah, you might have to quarantine him.
So I think that's a great idea. And what the NFL is doing,
that's leadership. That's thinking ahead.
I mean, people might have gotten on the NFL a little. I don't think they've taken too much criticism, but the way the NFL and the NFLPA has worked together you're right. It is leadership.
Yeah, you're thinking ahead.
The logistics, some of it's a pain in the rear end. Even for us to cover the game, it's a pain in the rear end. But again, I get what they're doing, and it's not about me having to be inconvenienced any way whatsoever. But they have covered everything, and it's amazing to me the amounts of detail. And I wish that the general fan could understand the great lengths that the NFL, the Players Association, management, everybody involved, what they're doing to make sure that they play. It's just fascinating.
And they get the money to do it.
They do have the money to do it. Quite frankly, the Big Ten has the money,
Big Ten has
to do it. And Central Arkansas and Austin Peay are doing it. Why can't the Big Ten, at least, at the very least, give it a shot?
Central Arkansas and Austin Peay can play, but Ohio State can't afford it.
Not allowed. No,
all right.
Or Troy Christian and
Dayton Christian.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do some emails. John wants to help you with your coffee wars.
Okay.
He says,
listen to this, Carrie, if you're watching this.
What advice, you guys asked the other day, what advice I might have for Chris so his supply of coffee isn't intentionally hidden by his wife. Chris has shared his support for this awesome coffee, and now Hemisphere is driving a divide between family members. He says, we know, Chris, all you do is give. John, currying favor. He says, we have added 3 12-ounce bags for our subscription so we never run out. Chris, I'd suggest you take another trip to Mechanicsburg and hide your new supply somewhere where your wife would never think of looking. He says, kidding. Hemisphere is the best coffee ever. May your current battle with the family subside in due time. John also says he disagrees with my take Friday on LeBron misusing his platform to share with youth about police hunting them down. He says the thoughts he shares on social media are his real feelings. I think our athletes are trying to find ways to promote change in the world. It's not necessarily the way you or I might go about it, but I admire our youth challenging themselves to make the world better. Yeah, I just think that it helps bring about in time a result that he's hoping to avoid, which is if kids are worried that police are not going to treat them fairly, then they react in a way that may bring about the eventuality that no one wants to see. That's my concern with it.
So, we stated our positions on everything on Friday. One of the verses that came out was be quick to listen and slow to speak.
Yes.
So I talked to my brother again about some of the issues. I talked to my nephews about the issue. He wanted my take on everything. And, my big thing that I'm passionate about, and I don't know, and I know that, believe me, I know this isn't easy, and I know the challenges that face police officers, and there's nobody in this country that has the respect for the police officers as much as I do, my admiration, and their willing to sacrifice what they do. I just think there's got to be a way to be able to have a less lethal form of detainment. If there's I don't have the answer. I just think that's what I would try to be focusing on. But a solution or starting to end racism. There's going to be a thing called End Racism in the NFL, which I'm glad that they're promoting, because I think every human being should
absolutely
support ending racism. And so my suggestion to families is to educate your children at a young age the origins of the word, the N word, what it means, where it comes from, and how vile it is, so that people understand how offensive it is. My other suggestion would be to educate your children. Don't wait for the school to do it. You start doing it at a very young age on who Rosa Parks was, on who Martin Luther King was, on who Frederick Douglass was. It doesn't, and educate your children on who this is and why, and the ideals of our country, that all men are created equal. Obviously, we have not lived up to those ideals. We've improved and are trying to get there, and keep trying to improve and get there. But it has to start in the home. And from white families, it has to start in the home, and not only talk about every hero, but start to educate yourself and educate your children on who these great African American leaders were and what they were able to do and accomplish. And I think that can start changing a generation, where it's my responsibility to educate my children. It's your responsibility out there to educate your children on our history, all of our history, including our African American history.
Absolutely agree. And my personal opinion, just to add on to yours, it's not necessarily your opinion, but I hear a lot about, the talk that African American parents have with their kids about, you have to be careful of police, this, that, and the other. I've had that same kind of talk with my kids about, if you get pulled over, here's where your hands need to be. Don't put your hands where they can see them, because I know from a law enforcement officer's perspective, they are understandably very nervous when they can't see a person's hands.
Right.
Don't reach over and get in your glove box to pick out your registration. Don't do that. Wait till he's up at the window, because he doesn't know if you're getting a car registration or getting a gun. So as soon as they stop, you get your hands at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock on the wheel, or get them like behind your headrest or something like that. You're not a criminal, but it takes down the temperature of the initial interaction. That's also a part of educating your kids about the needs of and the mindset of a law enforcement officer. He doesn't know if he's walking up on the car, if you're going to kill him, or if you're going to be like, "Hi, officer, how are you today?" He has no idea.
Especially if you're a concealed carry guy, they know you're a concealed carry guy because it's registered.
Yeah.
So when they call in,
they get your plate. Yes. They know this guy's got a concealed carry.
So if I ever get pulled over, my hands are either going right up on the steering wheel, or I'm taking both hands and I'll put them out
the window.
Out the window. I'm not even going to tell the guy. He's going to already know. But when he comes up,
you do have to.
I'm going to say I'm a concealed carry guy. I don't have it, or my firearm is located here.
Yeah. Email from Patrick. Says, "Hey guys, we have a mother on my daughter's travel softball team that's been on a ventilator for a week. Her condition is slowly improving, thank goodness. But even if she makes it, she's looking at a long rehab. So he nominates her for COVID-19 relief."
Oh, I have some kind of COVID-19.
Great. And you guys can do that by emailing SpielmanHooleyPodcast@gmail.com, just like Patrick did, to let us know of someone. Here's another one from Jody. "I'd like to nominate my 21-year-old daughter. While I've been home managing a COVID layoff and second and third degree burns on my hands and feet, she's worked tirelessly to help keep our household going while being a senior at OSU and working full time." Great. Wow. Thank you, Jody. And very sorry to hear of your health challenges, but your daughter's name will be in our drawing Friday.
Great. One of the winners was extremely grateful, and he shared that it was so cool for him to receive the money from such a cool guy, great athlete, accomplished a lot of things. And he said,
Michael Redd contributing now to COVID-19?
No, he said never in his life did he thought he would receive money from a two-time state champion.
He's not receiving money from me, brother. Not because I don't want to. It's not my wheelhouse at the moment.
So
can I nominate myself?
Yeah, because it's always been 1, 2, 3, Bruce.
That's
Everybody
right.
bring it in.
That's right. Absolutely. Hopefully not.
So I thought that was cool. Wow,
yeah,
you have
that's very
lots
cool.
of notes and journals and what
I do. I
you're-
journal almost every day.
Yeah,
It's a good thing.
Are we going into the faith?
Yeah,
portion?
unless you got
No.
anything else sports related.
I don't. I think it's a big day for the Big Ten, and,
Mhm.
and I just, for whatever reason, I just hope at the very least say, hey, let's backtrack here. Let's take a deep breath and let's give these guys a shot. And let's say, all right, all systems go, and at least let's give it a run, see what happens.
Mhm.
You know, because we know that there's, you know, that the medical heart thing that's been addressed. We know that 6% of the COVID deaths, and nobody's saying anything, 6% of the COVID deaths are from just purely COVID. There's other issues, morbidities. We have the best trainers, doctors, medical attention that are needed for these kids to be able to pursue what they want to pursue. And the other thing of that 6%, how many of those are the people that passed were past life expectancy? Anyway, 10 years past life expectancy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not to.
I get. I mean, we don't have to
It's
put a
just a-
disclaimer. It's just
it's
that's
just
the
people-
data.
Older people die. If it's not of COVID, it's of something else. And it's just a fact.
Yeah.
You know. So that's the deal. All right. Would you like to start us off on the third
No,
portion of the podcast?
no, because I don't have anything.
Okay.
I have an experience to talk to you about.
Okay, great. So today's August 31st. Those of you who are frequent listeners of the podcast know that I mostly start my day when Mr. Spielman comes early. By the way, how have you managed to surreptitiously
Get you to
move the start time of the podcast from 7 a.m.
It's been a gradual.
6:45, now 6:30?
It's been a gradual.
What's your end game? Like, when do you want this to eventually start? Are we going back to zone days where I have to get up at 3:30 in the morning?
No, but I know you're up.
Yeah. Well, I'm up because you're coming.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do? Sleep the whole day? I mean, life's
If I
too
could.
short.
Yeah, no, kidding.
I mean,
No, I was just teasing it. 6:30 is fine. So at any rate,
it's either 6:30 or 6:45 because I have some people that I meet with in the morning.
Okay, perfect. That's great.
That's important, and so sometimes, and I meet with them very early sometimes, and so I try to get my workout in, or at least half of it in,
Mhm.
before I come here. So
So today's the 31st of August, and
Yeah.
I start my day usually with the corresponding chapter of Proverbs to the date of the month. It's the 17th of the month. I'm reading Proverbs 17, and I read other chapters of the Bible, other books of the Bible, but I just like to start my day by pouring wisdom into my head from the book of Proverbs.
Okay.
So not every month has 31 days in it. So it's a treat to read Proverbs 31 on the 31st. And Proverbs 31, for those of you who are familiar with your Bible, is the chapter that talks about a wife of noble character. I am extremely blessed, and Chris is extremely blessed twice to have a wife of noble character. And I just want to give you an instance of how, when people ask me about my wife, I believe that I am pretty consistent in saying that one of the things that I love most about her is her wisdom. Because she is intuitive in ways that I am not. Particularly with the fact that we have 3 girls, and I was one of 3 boys. So I did not grow up with sisters, so I don't have any experience with girls. You talked about in our book, that's why I'm here, the Chris and Stephanie Spielman story. But one of the challenges for you after Steph passed away was that you didn't grow up with sisters either.
No.
And you had girls, you had Noah, but you had 3 daughters, and you had to, and then you gained 2 more daughters, Gina and Kendra, when you married Carrie. That was new experience for you too. Yeah. So I just want to go through like an instance where Sherry's wisdom has benefited me. My youngest daughter used to be a hugger. I loved to hug her. I couldn't, before she'd go to school, every morning I'd get this long hug. And I noticed that as she got into 5th grade, that was like, she wasn't melting into me in the hug like she used to. And I felt she was pulling away from me, and I was concerned about that. So I talked to my wife about it one day, and I said, what did I do? Like, I just want that. I miss that. And she's like, look, she's growing up. She's not a little girl anymore. Sometimes she is, sometimes she's not.
That's the hard part.
Here's where it is. You've got to be careful not to think of her like you used to think of her. And that was just so wise that I just have often thanked God for blessing me with a perspective that I do not have and do not really, I think, have the capability of having, because Sherry has nurturing aspects to her personality that, as much as I want to have them, I'm not nearly as good at them as she is. And so a lot is rolled into that. When you say, well, you're in love with your wife. Okay, great. But that's not really a faith element. No, it is, because it makes me recognize the goodness of God and the wisdom of God in that he designed marriage to be a partnership, an equal partnership between a man and a woman, where my weaknesses are complemented by her strengths, and hopefully her weaknesses are her deficiencies, or however you want to say it. I don't mean to say that women are deficient, whatever. I'm not going to do your dance on the whole apology thing in advance. But I mean, as a Christian man, I am so thankful to God for making me in such a way that I can be augmented, enhanced, improved, enlightened, complemented by a wife of noble character. And I thank him every day for me, it's a miracle that I met Sherry. She grew up in Arizona. We met across the miles. We dated long distance. And I just have a lot of things in my marriage for, the first part of our marriage that I wish I'd been better. You can't redo those things, but you can chart a new course going forward. I'm committed to that. And I am just so grateful that I have a wife of noble character, and for God's wisdom in designing marriage that way.
Well, I am just observing from the outside in is that it's everything is with your marriage, with my marriage, like you kind of balance each other. I mean, you certainly have your strengths as a person, things that I admire and respect, and I think there's such a calming presence. I don't know if this is true or not. I think she has just a calming presence about her that, maybe I'm wrong about this, but it seems to me like she doesn't let the highs get too high or the lows get too low. And where I think you and I, being athletes or growing up in a competitive world, it's always it's always win and
win
in life.
Yeah.
I mean, just we're keeping score a lot. I don't know if guys do that in general, but I think for you and I think that's very fair. I know that Carrie and I do that also. We balance each other, and there's things where I've grown where I've balanced her, and there's certainly where she balances me, especially handling girls. And there's something to be said about the woman's ability to nurture girls, and it's fun for me to watch and learn. The one thing I've done was open up in my heart and learn, and it was interesting for that period of time when I was a single dad. The respect that I have for single parents, regardless how you got into that situation, right? The respect that I have for single parents is amazing. And I know single parents maybe feel this way, and I know maybe they don't. I know that I felt this way, that at the end of the day, and I talked to you about this, that I always like I was so inadequate. I can't give every kid what they need. I had a lot of them, 4 of them, I think that's a lot for a single.
It's a lot.
But
That's a lot.
it was very difficult for, and they were from 10 years difference, right?
Yeah.
From 15 to 5 when I was doing this. And so I thought to myself, I had to start giving myself some grace. And I was doing the best I can. And so my respect for single parents and what you're doing and how you're doing it, I just hope you have the support that you need. And it's a reason why everybody asks me, oftentimes in our society, we hear about marriage jokes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think marriage is the greatest thing God ever created.
Absolutely.
I really do.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
When you have that bond with one person, and fortunately for my case, for whatever reason, I've been given a second opportunity to have this such a unique bond. People always ask me, because I've said many times, like when Stephanie passed away, I'll never get remarried again. And I remember Steph telling me, you have to you don't understand, but you will one day, that you have to get remarried, Chris. You're too young. You have your whole life ahead of you. You have to get remarried. And I said, you're crazy. But anyway, she knew better than I what I needed. And that's pretty courageous for a woman that's dying. That's a pretty courageous statement,
no doubt,
to say during that time. But anyway, I think from the perspective that I've had is that unique bond, and what I had with Stephanie was so awesome and so unique. But it's so what I have with Carrie is so awesome and so unique. And you know what? That's the only way it could work.
That's right.
Because I couldn't have and wouldn't ever want to have what I had with Steph. I wouldn't want what I had with Carrie, even though they're similar, but it's
similar,
totally
similarities, but
that's the
differences.
only way that I believe, and maybe other widowers and widows can relate to this. That was the only way that I thought that it could work. And so it's been an amazing journey and amazing blessing in my life. And marriage is, I think, being a parent and being married is the greatest gift and the greatest responsibility that God gives us. And I'm not saving my other thing for another day, but
Okay.
I thought that was so important for you to hit on today. So,
yeah, and you and I both also, I know, would agree that we have been blessed in our lives with our fathers having wives of noble character. I know your mom, Nancy, a little bit.
Yeah.
You met my mom before she passed away a few times. And both you and I have been greatly impacted in our lives and still are impacted in our lives by our mothers.
Yeah.
And your mother is still with us and is with Rick and is doing great grandma duty up in Minneapolis. And the thing about it is too, like, I know there've been a lot of pushback in our society here in the last whatever period of time that demeans the role of a woman as a wife, that there's somehow that's an inferior role, or that the women aren't strong. Man, I'll tell you one thing, you and I, Steph, Carrie, Sherry, wow, you talk about strong women who don't let us get away with anything and aren't afraid to stand up and
I'm so.
I would not want it any other way.
I sit there in awe sometimes.
Yeah.
Of the strength of women. I really do, and the admiration.
Yeah.
And it's not envy. It's just so cool to be able to be a witness to and admire the skill. I guess I don't even know how to describe the skill that they have to handle certain situations, and they just keep going forward. That's admirable to me. And that's strength, and that's it's something that is God given, and when it's right, it's right. And I would encourage all husbands and all wives, don't let society decide your value. Let God drive what you want to be as far as being defined by your value. God sets the rules of how to get the value and the admiration from your spouse. Don't let society set the rules. knows.
He designed marriage, and he didn't design anything that wasn't fantastic. And this is a kind of a weird place to insert a commercial, but the thing about it is, like, I met Chrissy and Steve and their family from AUI Info a couple weeks ago, and to hear Steve tell the story of when he was injured at work before he and Chrissy were married, and how Chrissy really nurtured him back to health. That would have been a great time to run, with Steph and breast cancer. A lot of husbands run.
Yeah, they
when
do.
Wives get breast cancer, they abandon their wives. And
It's
Chrissy
brutal.
stayed right in there with Steve, and to hear Steve tell the story, he got emotional, and it was just like, wow, like, we love doing business here on our podcast with great people. And when I saw how much love they have for each other and how much that love was welded together by, one serving the other, and I see how Steve now has taken the lead, adopted Chrissy's kids because she was a widow. It's just like, just marriage is so great. It's so great.
Can I say one more thing
Yeah.
about marriage? Don't be afraid of it. There's people that are.
But you have to commit to it.
Yeah.
You can't go in with an escape route, escape hatch, trap door. If this works, it's a commitment. A marriage is a commitment, and a commitment is unbreakable.
Don't be afraid of it. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of it, because it is. I didn't even think we were going down this path. It is the coolest thing that I've ever experienced in my life, and in all God's greatness, something that was taken away from me for whatever reason, for the greater good. I don't know what that is, but then I was given another chance to have something unique and special. I mean, that's just beyond my realm of comprehension, and it's just that's what is. Talk about being humble. That has humbled me to the core.
So that's where we'll leave it today. It is open enrollment health period. If you are a business and you want to line up the best health insurance for your employees, Chrissy and Steve at AUI Info can help you with that. They're in Akron, but they're licensed to service any business in the state of Ohio or individual. And if you have HR questions, their HR expert, Julie, can help you with that.
Could I ask you a question about it? Can they do that for individuals?
Yes.
Because if I don't work for Fox next year, which I hope I do,
Mhm.
but if I don't, so can I get
AUIinfo.com, brother.
Perfect.
We'll
They're
get
on
you
my list.
hooked up with them. So email the show, Spielman Hooley Podcast, gmail.com. Get those nominations in for COVID-19 relief. And you can follow us on Twitter at We Tackle. Watch the live stream of the podcast on our Facebook page, Spielman and Hooley, our YouTube channel, or on Twitter. We thank you for joining all of us. We hope you have a great day. And when we meet again on Wednesday, we'll have some answer, I suppose, to whatever the Big Ten finds out in court today from the Nebraska lawsuit, and maybe they'll be forced to have football. Maybe there's a hope. I don't give it a whole lot of chances, but
Yeah, we'll see.
do you?
No, because I think ego and pride comes before the fall.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I think we're seeing that right now.
they're taking a hit, but we'll see if they weather it or if they actually cite new information and say, yeah, we can play football. That'll do it for us. Everybody have a great day. We'll talk to you again on Wednesday.